Hi, my name is Richard, and I'm going to be speaking to you about the contract file today. We're going to be going into how to create a contract for each song or each artist deal, whatever our staff deal that you create. For everyone you do business with, you should create a contract. So be sure to do that. It will flow through all different aspects of the program, and I'll show you. It's an important part of the product and helps you get the correct amount of calculations for your royalties. So you want to create that. We're in home base, so I'm going to click on people and I'll show you. We're going to hit the data entry screen, and we're over here on Twyla Fabulous's record, which we have talked about in the past. So what I'm going to do is show you a backdoor into the contract file, which I think is the best way to get into it. Also, when you're entering a new contract or just checking old contract information. So today in this particular training tutorial, we're going to talk about the people portal that goes into contract, and then we'll go to the data entry screen over in the contract file specifically, and also there's a details layout. We'll look at those two layouts, the data entry and the details. So that's what we're going to cover in this tutorial. All right, so we're looking at Twyla. We've got her data entered. I'm going to click up here on the contracts button, and when I do, it takes me to what I'll call a portal, which is a way to see through into the contract file. You'll notice we have data in here already. So what we're going to do is create another one. We're going to kind of do a duplicate or close to a duplicate contract. So this scrolling portal allows you to have an unlimited number of contracts. So depending how you want to do your contracts, you may want to speed up your data entry. If you have a staff deal, you may just want to do a staff deal contract because the terms will be the same for all the songs under that. Or you could do it on a per song basis. Now, if you're signing individual songs to your publishing company or you're signing individual artists, you can do a contract for each of these as needed. So what we're going to do is we'll click in the first field, and it says author or publisher. Well, let's do an author agreement. We've got one above, but we're going to kind of emulate that. Goes to the second, it's a writer deal. And what I'm going to do, it goes to the second field. It gives you a pop-up menu of all the choices. For example, if it's a publisher deal, you could do that, or a sub-publisher deal. Okay, so now what we'll do is we're going to press our tab key and move on. So this is the date. Let's say it's signed today. All right, and it's a 1-year contract, let's say. So we'll just click this again and then change this manually. It's just quicker than you have to click around it to get it to not highlight, and then I could put 18. That's just a little shortcut. So each of these fields gives you a drop-down calendar. You can click through here and go back and forth to different months as needed to assign dates. Now, if there's a reversion clause in this contract, you can click here. Let's say it reverts in 1 year. So just as a matter of being easier, I'm going to manually do that. Whoops. Okay. This is the number of copyrights in the deal. Let's do a 10 song deal. So it's 10 songs. Now you can put masters, demos, works, arrangements, depending on what kind of deal you're proposing to Twyla Fabulous, or what kind of deal you've signed, I should say. Okay. So there's 10 songs per the one contract. It's one contract. Now you could also go do something. You could do it 10 songs per day, 10 songs per week, 10 songs per year. It really depends how you want to do it, but I'm just doing it by the word contract, based on the contract that she signs with us. Okay, pressing my tab key again. So I have an option beginning when. Oh, you know what? This is good that this happened, because I clicked out of here, and the latest contract will always go to the top. So because I clicked out of this, it slid up here. And you'll notice that this one was entered, but this one was not. So this is a new contract. You notice it has a newer number on it. It automatically will enter a number. So I'm really glad this happened, because now I can show you that if all of a sudden you have multiple contracts for one person and you happen to click outside of this box somewhere, it's going to reorder them with the latest, most current contract will slide to the top, so that when you come back, you can always look at the newest contract. That's helpful, but you need to know that so that if you happen to click out of there by accident or on purpose, you'll know that it reorders itself. So I was in the second line adding data, and then I came back and made an error by getting in the same fields in the second line when it had reordered itself. So be sure to check that if you click out of here somewhere. As long as you're in the portal and you're using your tab, you won't have that problem. It's not a big deal. You just click back in the field that you want. All right, so we're at contract, because I noticed this option was not blank and it was a previous date, and that's what made me realize that we had entered it incorrectly. So I'm going to press my tab key, and now I can enter the first option. So if I want to go through, I can go to next year, click it 12 times. There we go. And I'll click that. For example, my option begins, and let's see. Let's say my option ends in 19. You can enter these dates manually, or you can use the calendars, whichever you prefer. Now, see, I just clicked out over here. So now this would have reordered it. It's always going to send the latest contract to the top. So now we know that because we were already on the top. Now this is, are you thinking of renewing with this person, Twyla? And if you don't know for sure, better just to click yes. And now it automatically goes to the next field, which is a list of songs. Now, if you've already entered the song in the catalog file, it would appear here. If not, you'd need to go over and do that at some point if it's a per song contract that you're entering. Otherwise, just ignore this field and skip it, and let's go to the next one, and we'll call this Fabulous Twyla Staff Deal 2. I like to always start with the last name, then do an underscore, Twyla, and then Staff Deal 2, I'll call this, just so you can find it. And might even want to do that so that it sticks with that word if it's in a pop-up menu. This title will appear in pop-up menus over in the catalog file, so it's very helpful to have an official naming scheme that you use. And I like this one because it puts the last name of the person or company first, and that way it's all alphabetized if you have multiple contracts per person. Now we're going to move on. We've named it. We have a separate name for it. Pressing it. Now, these fields here, the percentages, should be 100. They come in automatically at 100%. What this means is that that Twyla is getting 100% of whatever she's entitled to in the deal. We put this extra field in here for things like estates and after people's death and stuff where you need to modify the amount going out. At least you'll have an option to do that in the future. Like if you had to cut it down to 80% of everything she's entitled to because an agent comes involved and things like that. But in most cases, you're not going to need that. You're always going to give her 100% of whatever she's entitled to. But if it was 90%, she had an agent and you were required not to pay the agent separate, for example, In that case, then you could put 90% of what she's entitled to and give the agent 10%. But you'd also have to create a deal for the agent. So it gets a little more involved. Normally you don't need to. So we auto enter these fields at 100, 100, and over here 100%. Now folios and prints are different, but I'll show you. Okay, so we're just going to tab through and leave these. This is not where you enter the mechanical amount that she's being paid. That'll get put in elsewhere, and I'll show you that later. Now, you can put the amount of print money. Let's say she gets 25 cents per copy of sheet music, or 50 cents, or whatever it is. And you can put that in at 0.25. That's a dollar amount under print media. So if she makes a amount for printed sheet music, then folio would be part of a folio book. She gets 50%, and we get 50%, for example. Okay, then foreign percentage is similar to these. Should stay at 100 unless there's a special thing going on that changes that. 100% of whatever she's entitled to foreign. We'll do the breakdowns later, the splits. This means split publishing. And you'll notice if you just click on that, you get a pop-up menu. And let's say, yes, it's split publishing. Let's say she's going to get 50% of the publishing, and we get 50%. So you'd put 50% co-publishing. Now, all this data that you're entering right here will go over into the contracts file, and you'll actually see it when we go over there by clicking the Go button. You'll see that shortly. Now, also, a lot of these fields have text explaining what the fields are. So if you forget what they are, you can just run your cursor over top, let it sit there, and it'll explain it. So I'm going to press my tab key again and add points. This is for artists only. Foreign points is F points, and the points is domestic. So let's say she gets 10%. Well, let's make it 25%. Let's make it fun. 25% of everything sold. Foreign, she's going to get 15%, for example. And this is just your company number that she signed under. That way, if you have different contracts for different company numbers, you can track that. All right, we're going to press our tab key. And this allows you to enter, it says specify type here. A staff writer deal, for example, an in-house deal, song-by-song deal, multiple works. You can call it whatever you want. It's a copyright claimant deal. It's sample. She's a sampler, masters, demos, videos, packaging, film. So whatever it is, we're going to call this a staff writer deal so that you can track. In case she has multiple deals, you'll be able to track what type, which one is which. Now, co-publisher message. Click Go button to add details. Okay. Yeah, we recommend it's best to go over there and add details, but you can skip that for now. Contract notes, you can type in here as long as you want. You can put millions of characters in here in words, so that's just whatever you want. You could actually copy paste your whole contract in there. That will also appear over in the contract file. I like this way because it gives you the basic fields that you need to get inputted for every contract. So if you start here, this kind of gives you the dates you need and the amounts, etc. So press tab. Has it been signed yet? This is an important field because you may forget to get it signed, or maybe she doesn't send back the contract. You can go through here, do a search or find, and find all the contracts that have not been signed. So let's say she signed it. We'll say yes. What is the territory that this is going to include? Let's say it's worldwide, the deal. And budget limit is regarding demos. So this has to do with, let's say it's $500 per demo. She's going to do home demos, or maybe you have a studio and you give her a budget for musicians, for example. The recoup amount is the percentage that some deals are recoupable and others are not. You can recoup dollar amounts, percentage amounts. And this is just it's not a field you enter. It'll automatically calculate the amounts you've added in the advances that you've paid. All right. So now you have two buttons, a delete button, which would delete this whole portal entry. If we click this, it's going to say, are you sure you want to permanently delete this? No, you don't want to do that, so I'm going to cancel. That would only be if you screwed it up royally and you wanted to start over and you want to delete a contract, you can. So we're going to click go. There's other buttons on this page, but just to get to different screens, but we're going to click go. That's the best way. The contract has been entered now. You notice it's named deal 2. We've entered some contract notes. Studio information, this is other fields in here that give you lots and lots of detail. And every data field can hold billions of characters, so you can type away for weeks if you want. But anyway, this is information about the studio. LA, let's say it's a Nashville studio. Studio 1 and whatever. You can type in whatever you need there. This is just to keep track of information about the studio she uses or the types of amounts of money that you budget. Whatever you want to be able to refer to in the future, you can. It's a great place to keep data so that you don't forget it. Now, all the data we entered early is already in the data entry screen. So we could have entered it over here, but we did it in the portal. That guaranteed that this author number would automatically come in because we were on Twyla's record over in People. And that's why I like starting the contract there. Otherwise, you would have to click here and enter the person's author number in order for it to be connected through the system. The contract ID will enter automatically. This has to be entered, but again, if you do it in the People file, you don't have to think about this. You don't have to link it. So now we're automatically linked to the People file so that in that portal, her contract shows up. Both Staff Deal 1 and Staff Deal 2 are here. All right. If there's anything else we need to fill in, we can go through. Royalties due date. Oh, this is quarterly. Let's say we're to pay her quarterly. We administrate 100%, or if it's a co-administration, you can add that type of information. All right. She gets split publishing, 50% of the publishing rights. We're interested in renewing this if we can keep working with her. And that way it kind of keeps you attuned to the people you want to renew. And you can come in here and do a find, for example, of all the people you want to renew with. And you'll get a list. You can go to the long list and you'll see various writers and publishers that you're working with. Here's her deal 2. Just click on that in the long list. This button takes you to the long list. That shows you as far as how many records are in the current found set. And you can always click all, which if you click show all, again, that will show you all the records in this file. So we're going to click on hers. That'll take us to that record, back to the data entry screen. So we've already entered all this data. This was entered when we came into the portal. So we're done here. So what we want to do next is go over to the detail screen by clicking the detail button here. This just lets us keep track of as you enter copyright works or project works, it will track those things here and you'll show them. Now, let's say we want to enter period number 1. The option begins tomorrow, and let's say the option begins on the 2018. We'll just change that. Quantity of songs is 10. This way you could have multiple periods if you want to require like 2 songs in the first month, etc. You could do that. Notes, renew. It just gives you opportunity to enter more detail about different periods. You could have ongoing contracts over the years and track them all under staff deal. Because if you renew a deal years and years ago and just keep them going, this will allow you to track all the deals you've done in the past. Or you can enter a new deal each time all the subsequent songs will pertain to the new deal that you put in, because terms may change. You can change it on the record, and then every record from that point on will be monitored by the contract. But if you want to create a new deal, you could just call it Staff Deal 2. That's a good idea too. But you want to assign the correct name or number of contract. Here's the contract number and here's the name. Those are two important pieces of information that will appear in pop-up menus throughout the system. And that's what helps create the correct amount of royalties as you add, in other words, as you license these songs and we track the number of sales, etc., or number of uses, amounts of money that come in, it'll track the percentage based on this contract. So if your contract terms change quite a bit, you may want to enter a new contract and just call it Staff Deal 2, for example, Staff Deal 3. This information over here you can ignore. This is for previous users that have older versions of the software. We wanted to leave these fields in here so that they could grab their old data and re-enter it right here. But this will get deleted at some point in the future, and all of a sudden you'll upgrade and you won't see this anymore. So don't worry about this. Ignore this section. These are different fields that when we delete these, it won't affect these. So just use this portal here. Okay, so that's pretty much what we've covered is the people portal into contracts, so that we're in the people file, but we're looking through a portal at contract data. Then when we finished entering that, which is the way I recommend it, we click the go button. We came over to the data entry screen, which is this one, and we just looked at all our data because we'd entered most of it. If there's anything else you want to enter, you can. Then we click the detail button and we looked at further data. Now again, this will appear as you start entering catalog songs in the catalog file, and you assign this contract, then they'll appear under this contract. So you want to make sure you assign the correct songs to the correct contract. You may only have one, so it's an easy no-brainer, but if you have multiple, you'll have to discern which one you're going to assign to it. We'll get into that when we get into the catalog tutorial. All right, hope this has been helpful. Thanks a lot.